All right, great guys. It's nice to be here. Thanks to Aisha, Chooks, and everyone for putting this together. Before we get going, I want everybody to be lively. Everybody seems dull. I don't know. Is it just me or everybody just seems dull today? So, I want to take a selfie to show my guys back at work that I'm doing something while they are also working. So, at the count of like 5, everybody just shout PyCon NG. Is that good? Awesome. So let's do that. Let me see. I'm not sure if my mic will. Okay, let me come down. Let me come down. I think I should come down. Yeah. Let's do this. So at the count of at the count of 1, 2, 3, go. Everybody say PyCon NG. 1, 2, 3, go. Woo! Shit. Thanks, guys. Thanks. All right. Is my screen showing? Thanks. Awesome. Good. So, my name is Seun Awoyele from DevCenter. And basically, I'm sure many guys will be asking, what's DevCenter? If you're in the house and you haven't heard about DevCenter before, can I see a wave of hands? Wow. Quite a few hands there. So basically, DevCenter is basically a distributed network of software developers, designers, and PMs across Africa. And we are trying to help clients build world-class software. And then in doing this, we started as a community. And from there, we moved on to helping clients build world-class software. So basically, that's what we do at DevCenter. And I'm Seun, as you all know, co-founder, DevCenter, developer evangelist, project manager. I'm an avid product hunter. I mean, that's the tab that side has been on my Chrome tab for like the last 3 years. That's never gone off. I mean, it's there every day. So I'm an avid product hunter. I mean, there's no product on here. I'm sure many of us know that. I'm also an internet wrangler. So I mean, ask me for anything you want to find on the web, and I'm off to your races. I can literally find anything you want for you on the online. It's just let me know what it is, and then it's done. We're going to brief history about DevCenter, what we are doing. So in 2014, like I said, we started our online community of 500 users or developers. And this was very interesting for us because what we wanted to do, the goal of this was to find out what developers were actually doing. And when developers were in their silos, many people were not talking, many people didn't know each other. I mean, contrast back to our insight now. In 2013, 2014, and where we are right now, a lot of developers didn't even know themselves. So everybody was just like doing stuff they were doing, and nobody knew each other. So we hacked up a site and said, why don't we allow guys share what they are doing, stuff they are working on, and then let's see what's happening. And that was how it all started. In 2015, we moved to Slack to actually start a project, an open source project called State and Cities. The goal of that project was to basically see how we could actually map different cities across Nigeria and get their different locations, their short codes and every other thing together. That was the goal of the project, and then we started onboarding people into it. And the idea was not to form a community on Slack. It was just basically to get a project done and make team communication as easy as possible. And from there, we started adding 2, 3, 4 people, and it moved to 46. And today we are at 1,800. In 2015, we decided to come together and then start organizing a small meetup. The goal of this meetup was basically to just do something different. It wasn't to allow people come and then I come and preach down on you and then I tell you about XMPP or I tell you about maybe PyCon or something. Well, basically have a gathering of developers. Let us take small chops, drink red wine or something, juice, interact, see what we are doing, and then that was the goal. And people thought we were kidding. And we did that, and then there were small shops everywhere, and people were just looking at it. And we're like, guys, I mean, let's eat and let's have fun. So that was it, and then we did that. In 2016, as we started growing, a lot of people started to recognize DevCenter as an hub for developers online, and then we decided to launch what we call DC jobs back then. Basically, the goal of DC jobs was to share some of these job requests with the community and say, okay, if you are a PHP developer, there's a PHP opportunity, PHP company here. If you're a Python developer, there's an opportunity here. And that was what happened. And we had over like 1,000 applications. I mean, like 60 days. That was like massive and everything. So I mean, a lot of guys wanted to do these jobs, and then people were applying for it. And now, 2017, this year, we decided to do an entire revamp of that MVP, which was NDC Jobs, to something called the Jobs Platform, whereby we started matching developers to software projects, and then we ended up carrying them out because, I mean, there was a real demand for these guys out there. Where we are now, 390 projects received so far. Like I said, we have 1,800 members on the community, about 30,000 messages per month. 500 devs and developers talking there actively every single day. I'm sure a lot of you know what's happening there on Slack, but for those who don't know, this is what's happening, and many guys are chatting. So I mean, it would be good to have you guys on there. You come in and join us. That's the URL, bit.ly.dcs-slack. There are a couple of interesting channels going on right there. We have the Gigs channel where we share a couple of interesting opportunities and jobs. So if you're a company, if you are a lone project manager or something, someone looking to hack up a team together to build projects, go in there and drop your JDs or whatever, and then people will respond to you. Android channel for Android developers, the dev channel for developers. I mean, it's basically like a channel that I use personally to solve my own developer issues. So I'm working on a project right now. I ran into an issue with maybe calls, for example, and then we're trying to see how we can like solve that problem out. And then everybody's having like probably a brain pause for that. I mean, I don't know how to go about it. I can just go in there, drop my question, and then get it sorted out. It's basically like our own Stack Overflow inside the Slack channel. The ML channel, because machine learning is very important right now. Everybody's shouting machine learning, machine learning, machine learning. And it's good to see what's happening on that front and see what guys could hack up together. Recently had like a Google online hackathon, right online with Google for machine learning, and then we had like about 4 or 5 teams that came together and did something awesome. The design channel and the algorithm channel is also there as well. So that's that about DevCenter. Let me just dive straight into my talk today. I know I have about 25 minutes, right? Yeah, and then 5 minutes for questions. Awesome, so let's do it. You're a developer. Before I go into my talk, I want to ask, how many of us are students here? How many of us are students here? Okay, quite a lot of hands. How many of us are actual working professionals? You are working at a company as a developer and every other thing. How many people? Okay, not a lot. So, okay, for the students, how many of you have actually started working on like projects using like Python or whatever language you are learning? How many as a student? Maybe your pioneer project or something, or a project someone gave to you. Not quite a lot. Wow, interesting. So basically, I mean, as a developer, one thing we've seen for developers in Nigeria is that you learn your craft. You go to Google, you watch YouTube, you search, Stack Overflow. You do everything basically to make sure that you know your craft, you know what you are doing, and then you start working on projects. But everything doesn't just quite go as it should. I mean, it's not like you're talking to your computer alone. Now you have to work with people. So it's not only you have the designer, you have the front-end guy, you have the back-end guy, and then all of them come together to like make this project work. So more or less my talk today is basically around how we can actually do that better as a developer. So if you're in today's this environment right now, everybody wants to create the next WhatsApp, everybody wants to create the next Uber, everybody wants to create the next, Facebook, for example. So everybody wants to have a project they're working on. Basically, this is what we see. The customer comes to you and says, oh, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. But basically, they don't have an idea. For example, I have someone walk up to me saying they want to build an Uber for Lagos, for example. So, I mean, do you really know how Uber works? Do you know the technology stack and everything? You don't really know. So customers know nothing, basically. The developer thinks about like technologies and says, oh, Uber, I'm sure they're using XMPP on the back end. For the interface, they probably built that using, probably designed it using maybe Sketch or maybe like a foundation or something. I mean, you can have a like idea of technologies that are being used, like do that kind of stuff. And then the PM comes in and talks about like the deadline. Oh, okay, so I mean, you want to be an Uber, how long will it take us to be an Uber? 3-4 months, 8 months, 7 months, a year, 3 years. I mean, that's what the PM comes to about. If you're a PM in the house, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. If I'm talking too fast, please let me know if you're not hearing me, because I mean, that's one of my weaknesses. I talk a lot. I talk fast rather, actually, so just let me know if I'm talking too fast. Then the analyst comes and then he says he knows everything. He probably has thought about it and says, oh, an Uber, I mean, I've seen it work. It's not that difficult. We can do it. I mean, it's fine. Then he goes and then gets everything from the customer and sits down with the customer and says, oh, okay, you want to be an Uber? How do you want it to be? Do you want the cars to all be red, or do you want it to only be in like Ijebu Ode or something? I mean, he sits down with the customer and then does all those findings. And meanwhile, this customer actually knows nothing, to be honest. And that's like what happens today. Every project story, to be honest. And then the developer comes and says he can do it in 1 month, in 3 months rather. And then the PM says, no, you should actually do it in 2 months. And then the project ends up taking about 4 to 5 months, because nobody has an actual plan of how those projects should actually even go. Because everybody has like their own rough estimate of what like this stuff should be. So they get going. The client pays the money, I mean, to start the project. Everybody's happy, you know. Alerts don't enter. Project first month, everybody's happy, you know. Customer sees something. Let's take for example that you're building an Uber for Suya. Yeah, let's say Uber for Suya. So I mean, the customer comes and says, I'm building an Uber for Suya. I want this Uber for Suya to work well. Help me distribute Suya across Lagos. Let people be happy, just like the way pizza runs. And then he builds something, and the customer sees something. And then in the second month, in the third month rather, the customer comes and says, oh, okay, I can see that you guys have built me something that actually works, and I like that on the Uber app, if I make a request, I mean, I can call, but is it possible for me to just know directly WhatsApp that guy instantly? I mean, the call will be maybe too long. Can you do that? I start thinking, okay, does WhatsApp have APIs to connect to? I mean, you start thinking about other stuff, and then that's what happens. Then you start bringing a lot of changes into it. And the developer comes and screams, and then, everybody now comes and start blaming, and then everybody just at the office or wherever you are working from like 8 to like 10 p.m. and every day. And then the PM keeps asking the developer, are you done? What's up? How far? You don't finish, you don't push the code. All this kind of stuff. And then that's what basically happens every single time. We do this every day. This is like cycle, repeats. So that's what's happening. But why does this really happen though? I mean, what's actually the problem? Requirements are not fully understood at the beginning of the process. Because, I mean, you just take the client's work. You don't sit down properly, like look at those requirements or talk to the client about what they are doing and what they want to achieve, what the goal is for them. Requirements change during the process. So, I mean, as a client, as you continue to show the client stuff to do, the client comes to you and then is adding more stuff again to what you're already doing, basically drifting you off from the trajectory of the timeline you're already on. And then the process becomes unpredictable, and then everything just because of new technologies and stuff. So how can we do better? In one word, it's agile. I don't know if you get about agile before, but it's a very popular phrase. What's agile basically? A structured and active approach to project management and project development. And one of the core examples of agile today is Scrum. And I'm talking about Scrum for like a bit. Basically, what are the prerequisites of Scrum? A small team, good people, and then common sense. Because with these three things, you could basically undo any project that comes your way. All you just need is basically these three things. But I'll be going into the artifacts of Scrum, basically, briefly, just to give you an idea of how you can Scrum your own project and then use that to make your process better and faster. So what are some Scrum artifacts? Maybe I should probably define Scrum itself. So Scrum is basically an approach of agile development And then the goal of Scrum basically is to do more of the work in less the time. You understand? So do more work, but in less the time. That's basically the goal of Scrum. And it's one of the approaches of Agile. And then the Scrum Artifacts, we have sprints, and then we have product backlog. And we also have one more, which I won't talk about today, but just it's to basically just for us to just get a good sense of what I'm talking about. So what's a sprint? A sprint is basically like a period of time with specific deliverables that lasts for about 2 to 3 weeks, no more or less. So I mean, in that sprint, you come and then you basically list out like talk about what you're supposed to do, whatever you're supposed to build. For example, you're building Uber for Suya, take into consideration like the entire thing you need to build for that application and everything. And then you have a product backlog, which after the sprint, you have a product backlog that goes ahead and you start listing out those things that everybody on the team would do. As a developer, what am I going to do? As a designer, what I'm supposed to design and every other stuff. So basically, that's what these two things are. So on a sprint, you do what we call a sprint planning, which is like a 2 or 3 hour meeting where everybody sits down together as a team, talk about the project you're working on, and then share and look at every single thing from like the entire thing from a broad spectrum and say, okay, how do we address this? And then this starts with like sprint backlog, like I said, and then ends with deliverables. So after talking about all these other things, you need to find out and say, okay, what should this developer A deliver at the end of this process? What should developer B deliver? And what should developer C deliver? And then after this sprint is done, and then you have worked about the deliverables, and everybody goes to do their stuff. The next stuff is a sprint review or retrospective, whereby everybody comes together, sits down, and looks at the sprint that just ended and say, oh, okay, what can we do better in this sprint? What maybe probably there was a blocker that was affecting everybody in that thing. Maybe you couldn't like get stuff done in time. What are those things that are basically blocking the way of you working faster and better? That's the goal of this entire stuff. And then with this sprint itself, you have what we call daily meetings and startup meetings, which are like 15 minutes max, whereby you shouldn't estimate 30 minutes max at the most, and the entire team should be there. This is something we try to incorporate at DevCenter for across all projects and even with ourselves internally. So every single thing that happens within us is done via Scrum, and then we make sure that we have daily meetings on how this thing should go. So it's basically 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? And do you have any problems? It's not more than those 3 questions, because with these 3 questions, you can easily find out what's happening every single day without having to talk to anybody and say, oh, what's happening in this project? These 3 things basically address every single thing that's happening on your project. What's the product backlog? This is something called user stories or tags or bugs. User stories, in short, basically is it's basically more or less like a format used to break down whatever it is you're trying to do into a specific format. So as a user of the Uber app, I want to order Uber. I want to order a car so I can get to destination X. Understand? So I mean, you have to put into question that okay, there are 3 things happening here as a user, and then you want to order. So if you're ordering a car, what does it entail to order a car? Is it via Google Maps? Are you calling a rider? Are you calling somebody else? And then you go to a location. Is that car able to get that location for you and every other thing? So those are the kind of things that are bundled in user stories. And then user stories are broken down into tags too as well. So after writing user stories and forming your user stories, the next thing is to go ahead and talk about the tags. And after tags, as we all know, there's no how you build stuff and then they won't have bugs. So you come in, look at the bugs that affecting the product or the project, and then you address them. Basically, I want to talk about Scrum rules before I end this. I'll soon end my talk. Product owner. Who is the product owner? This is basically the project manager or project sponsor. And basically, what their role is on this team is basically to do marketing stuff and then be like an internal customer for this project. So you are building this project for the final client, but you need to know from a perspective of the user or from the owner of the project how you are seeing this without having knowledge of what's happening. That's the role of this person basically, and make sure that when this product comes out, it reaches out to people that are going to use this actual product and then get them to use it. A Scrum Master, basically. Scrum Master is responsible for like enhancing the Scrum values. Basically, managing the sprint meeting, those meetings that we're having, saying, okay, what did you do yesterday? Scrum Master's role is merely managing those meetings, make sure they don't go over time, and then do the sprint reporting, make sure you report on everybody's stories and tasks. And then basically, the guy is typically like a project manager or a team leader. And then the project team itself. So the project team is basically a team of cross-functional people. So it could be developers, UI designers, what have you, database guys or whatever. And this team should not be more than 5 to 7 people at the most, depending on the kind of projects you are working on, though, because there's a project whereby you could only use about 2 people. I remember in the early days of WhatsApp, there were only 4 engineers that built like the entire Android app that powers over 1 billion users. So, I mean, you can imagine if 4 engineers are the ones in charge of an app that powers over 1 billion users, you can know what's up with that. So the team should be lean and should be small. Thank you, guys. You can join us on Slack, and that's my Twitter handle, and then my email address if you want to reach me for maybe this slide or whatever. Feel free to walk up to me, and then let's talk about anything, software development, developers, or whatever. Thanks.
Thank you, Seun. That was enlightening. I'll be taking questions now. Questions?
There's only one question we need to ask. Who is Core?
Who is Core?
Yes.
Core will be reviewed shortly.
All right, well, I hope we will get in the slides.
Yeah, sure. I'll send the slide through group. Yeah. Any other questions?
Great talk, Seun. I really enjoyed it. For projects, when the customers are coming in with additional things that they want, changes, does that move to understand that the deadlines also move as well?
I mean, there are always bound to be changes as you build, and then there's this stuff called the change request form. Change requests are basically you taking down all these changes, putting them into a form, and then basically looking at the current progress or its current trajectory, and then saying after we are done with these deadlines, we will now go ahead and address these changes to make sure that everything is done and then put in perspective.
Thank you. Please, in your view, how do you characterize a world-class app? When you say world-class app, what do you actually mean? Quantitatively, what do you mean?
Interesting question. I kind of like that. What's a world-class app? To be honest, a world-class app is basically something that works. It's as simple as that. But to get to that point of something that works, it takes a lot of attention to detail and a lot of work being put in. So, I mean, you have to look at everything across board. What am I doing? What's I supposed to do? What's the value proposition for a client or for a user of this app? And then how effective is it? Does it offer them value? And does it help them get done what they need to get? Look at WhatsApp, for example, now. The basic reason why we are all using WhatsApp is to communicate with friends, colleagues, and this thing. Does that help you do that? The answer is yes. Is it world class? It is. Because it does that already. So, but when you now start scaling and doing every other stuff, then that means more people are beginning to accept that this value is interesting, is something that works for them, and they want to use it. So basically, WhatsApp app is an app that basically just it works and it's perfect, and then it makes good value to the user. Simple and short.
More questions? More questions?
Femi, you mentioned 2 of the artifacts for the Scrum framework.
Yep.
Can you just mention the last one, if you know?
Okay, yeah, so the last one is called a burn down chart. So basically what a burn down chart is as you have those weekly sprints and you have daily meetings, you begin to take down the number of, basically you begin to record the time and then the activities that are happening, and then you see how there's progress on each of those meetings. So basically you put them in a chart, and then you now continue to see like a graph of how the performance has been over time. So burn down chart basically helps you to measure what you have been doing so far without having to like go ahead and start coming up. Yeah, basically that's what it's all about.
Okay, that's the last question.
Uh, I really want to commend you for enjoyed it. It was quite interesting. Actually, this particular topic was something that took my company.
Okay.
Yeah, pass across to.
Okay.
People. So, but I looked at the title of the talk.
Developer, yes.
Yeah. So, from this presentation, it's to
yeah.
So, what are personal? I want to contribute to an open source project.
Yeah.
I want to work on my own project. How does this apply to me?
Okay, great. I love that question. So basically, anybody can apply Scrum to whatever they are doing. You can apply Scrum to something as basic as a wedding. To be honest. So because there's this great book on Scrum called Scrum. Scrum: The Art of Doing the Work and Less Half the Time by Jeff Sutherland. You can look it up. Basically, as a developer and as a lone developer, how can you apply Scrum into whatever you are doing actively? So if you want to go into open source projects and start working on open source projects, many of us see open source as sort of a big deal. Oh, this is like a lot of work to do. But there are many things that you could do to contribute to open source projects. So what are those? Look at an open source project, for example, and say, what parts of this project interest me as a developer? What parts do I feel I can make a contribution to? And then you go ahead and maybe go to GitHub and then maybe probably fork the code or make a pull request. And then look at the source code and then make as little as 1 line or 2 lines. If it gets merged to the main master branch, that's a contribution already. You understand? And if you want to go ahead and Scrum that, you can go ahead and look at your own time as a developer and say, okay, what are those things that I need to do on this particular project? What I want to add or contribute to this particular open source project. So maybe you're looking at an open source project that lacks any form of interactivity or some form of communication. So, okay, how can I use this to create an API that ties into another application? What do I need to do? You break it down and then do a product backlog of what you need to do, list them down, and then have like go through and then look at when you are creating your backlog. There's something called user stories, and then you are I'm trying to remember the words to use now, but basically what it means is you looking at those product backlog and then looking at the size of what each of those things will require you to do. So is this maybe create an API going to take me a week to do? Is this maybe creating a login screen going to take me like 2 days to do? You itemize those things and then break it down and then put them into perspective and say, okay, this task that will take me 2 days to do, let's call it maybe a dog. And then this task that will take me a week to do, let's call it a lion. So that means anybody that sees that project and says, okay, this is a lion, this is a dog, okay, there's a difference between a lion and a dog. So you can have to look at it and say, okay, how can I break this thing down and then walk it through till I make sure that I finish it up. So basically, you can apply Scrum to basically anything that you want to do. Does that answer the question? Good.
That'll be all. Thank you, Seun.
Yeah.